So the concept of this exhibition is to have a physical installation of the artwork, but without an audience being physically present.
The making of a work has taken place in roughly the same way that the making of a work would normally take place, but how the audience interact with that, how they encounter your work has had to change dramatically.
So we had the idea to have a documentary, which this is now, which I think is more interesting and keeps you more engaged. There haven't been the kind of limitations or restrictions that you normally get when it comes to an exhibition due to nobody coming in, so it's been really good.
So first of all, I'm an abstract expressionist artist. I primarily work with photography and collage, going to painting as well. My work revolves around the aspect of exploring the urban landscape of Wakefield, but at the same time sort of concealing my journey sort of emotionally and physically with these barriers of colour and abstraction that sort of revolve around the day-to-day lives of everyday working people. They're just moving forward, not looking, not knowing where they're really going. I'm really excited about reading travel writing, particularly Ian Sinclair, Simon Pope and the great George Orwell, who all three talk about drifting around the city centres of London and Paris as well, and have that sort of familiarity about their place where they've been growing up, but also pinpointing places of interest that no one really ever sees. Those influences about walking but stopping and observing. Also looking into particularly this exhibition, Michael Dean, who's he's a northern contemporary artist from Newcastle, talks about the struggle of northern society, sort of the upbringing of sort of day-to-day lives of the industrial city centre. Pretty much a similar situation I'm in, living in city centre of Wakefield. It's very urban, very industrial. So I started out as an abstract expressionist painter, but then I slowly developed an interest in making collage. The idea was to create paintings using cut-out pieces of paper from old art magazines. From there, I started animation, film, combining documentation footage of my day-to-day life of wandering around the city, but also incorporating those collages that I've used to physically block out those pictures that I want people to see. It's an extension of focusing and observing in sort of these little windows and frames that I've built for the viewer to see. Is that you're only able to access it from a point where you can't physically go near the exhibition. You have to view it from a window or a doorway, and there's all sort of that obstacleness of what I'm trying to put forward in my work as well. And there's always something in your path that will never get you to the place where you want straight away. You have to work for your art, you have to work for seeing my work. So this my work. So I've titled this piece, I Left My Artwork Around Here Somewhere. And the idea is that situated in the art house in Wakefield, this space here is primarily used as a function room, so normally artists can't get the chance to exhibit in that space. So I wanted it to be left as a functional room where you can't get access normally. So the idea is to peek through this little doorway window here and sort of try and find where the artwork is. So it's not fully on display as you would traditionally see in a gallery. It's not on the walls. It's on the side of the walls, on the floor, behind the furniture. What's in there already. So I've just been using that furniture to blockade the artworks, so you can't get a good glimpse of it in one go. You have to look and walk around the room. The people who work here as well, they're the only people who gain access to that room as they go past. So on the other side of this room, I made sure that the furniture is situated so that when you walk past you can only see a little bit at a time. And also you can't go up to the artwork. That's one of the big no-nos that I ask people, is to not do that.
My work has often explored time, the nature of time, and our misunderstanding of time. I started to explore non-linear models of time, palimpsest of moments stacked one on top of another. I use sound to explore time. Sound can't exist outside of time. And I particularly use sound to explore our anxiety of time. The ticking of a clock, the clicking of a metronome.
I started to use looping pedals. I started to try and think about how loops of time work. Initially this started like just using audio looping pedals and layering sound on top of sound. Linear manner, but instead would pile moments of time on top of each other, stacking them in an up and down configuration. But I wanted to be able to do that live. All of the equipment that I'm using has been discarded, and I often kind of see that as part of my practice. My work is rarely about a singular idea. There's multiple ideas in it. The history of the screens, the history of the instruments, the discarded musical instruments that were pulled out of bins that once were used in order to make a very particular type of sound music, are now being used to make a very different idea of sound. Music is built on structure, and it has rhythms, and it has time signatures. What this all does, all this structure does, is allow us to understand music. So when you're listening to a song, even if it's the first time you've ever heard it, you have expectations of what that song is going to do. It builds in a particular way, in a particular kind of time. And what that's basically doing is rewarding us. So when we hear something, we say we like that. What we often mean is that it is doing what we think it should be doing. We are in essence predicting the future. We are listening to the music and it is allowing us to see into the future, and we can make a guess about what's going to happen, and when that thing happens, we get our little dopamine hit and we feel rewarded for hearing that sound. But naturally as humans, we fall into rhythms. When you hear a particular tune, you want to nod your head to it, you want to move to it. It's quite hard to nod your head out of time to a piece of music. So when we're kind of playing here, to be able to kind of play very discordantly out of time really causes the audience to really not enjoy what they're hearing. And out of that comes a sense of anxiety, a sense of tension, and you don't really appreciate how much that is affecting you until the thing switches off. And when you hit silence, or close to silence as we can achieve, the sense of relief that that sound has stopped kind of washes over you.
Yeah, my work is about, part of it is about technology. It's about modern situations with computers, computer language, communications, and development, and progress that's going on with that. That was my work originally, which I do still think it affects that, but it has moved on to using things like colour and progress. I've always used a printer, and I use different kinds of papers, like acetate paper, and I've noticed it's always been something that's been continuous throughout my work. I like playing about development. I usually use an A4 printer at home, and I kind of layer up the images from photographic colour paper, normal printing paper, canvas paper. I use whatever I can do. So it's more, at the moment, it's more about the development. I think that's a lot more to do with the situation that we're in with lockdowns, because I can't actually use workshops, etc. Yeah, the use of colour is important to me because I think it affects the way you perceive things and how you feel, so your emotions, etc., your perception. I'm quite into the horror genre, and I watch quite a lot of films, and I'm interested in the way they set that out. You know, the colours, depending on where it's actually filmed with the colour palette, they have a choice of colours, like 5 colours that shows all the way through the film, and how that affects your mood and how you feel throughout that film. So I think colours are very important when it comes to my work. I do seem to stick to a particular kind of sense of colour, which isn't intentional, but that's what seems to happen. And I've come to realise that my work, I try to give more of a fear factor, and I think that's influenced through my love of horror films. The current body of work is actually to do with the lockdown last year. I mean, being limited in what we can actually do. And rather than go big and bold, which I would normally try to do in the university, and using our workshops and facilities, I decided just to make it quite apparent that I've been using what I can do at home. And like previously I said, I used an A4 printer, and I have my inks. I have my inks and my A4 paper, and I've just thought, for a change, make it as small as possible. And just see, because it's quite detailed and the images are quite small in general, I just thought, just play around with it for once rather than just blow it up and put myself in a situation when I'm so stressed out. I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this? So yeah, I decided just to use the frame that I had in the house, and it's more about limited access with my work. It's also, it shows you progression from the first lockdown to the last lockdown. And there was also a period, the majority of the work is a period when I managed to go, I think it was September time 2020, to Cologne in Germany. And yeah, the images, I don't think people get it, but the images actually from that period. So it's kind of a continuation story. It's like from March 2020, and it runs all the way through to March 2021. And it also shows the beginning of what I'm doing with the actual process, and then these are kind of more developed, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Originally it was images around the house, because that's what I was limited to, not being able to go out in 2020, in March. So I used certain things that I wouldn't normally use, like kind of deterioration, like paint peeling off, plaster coming off the wall, wallpaper being ripped off, them kind of things, and just kind of focus onto that. And then I chose particular Amityns, which you can see over there, and then printed it onto photographic paper, tried it in colour, tried it in black and white, and then wasn't too sure where to go from there. Started using the acetate, printing the same images on them, see what came out from that, whether it was a kind of bold colour, whether it was kind of faded. Some of them worked out quite well. Yeah, it came with a really kind of glossy effect, which was better than a normal image, photographic image. And then it was through accident actually that the later ones was kind of a mixture of two different images, and I found that they had more life to them than anything else. And also it went to more abstract, which is what I kind of originally do, is abstract photography. Because as you know, the original ones are just photographs. So that's the stage I'm at now, so it's kind of a build-up of different images. And we decided, through the experience of last year, to actually not only put it onto a website, but we wanted something a bit more lively than that, because it's too flat, and the majority of us is working through digital image anyway, so to have that on digital again on the TV just kind of flattens it a bit in a way that I can't kind of explain.
So actually, what we wanted to do was actually just flip that dynamic, because the problem is not with putting on an exhibition, the problem is with gathering people. So you can still put on a physical exhibition, you just can't have people come and see it.
And that's the sort of the beauty of what I'm trying to put forward in my work, is like, I want people to see, but it's okay if you don't, you know. I'm not going to reveal all to everyone, and if that's the case that no one sees this work, then that's fine.